I'm starting this channel because there's a crisis in this country. There is a crisis not only in the United States, but in all over the world. There's a crisis of people losing traditions. It's a crisis of families not being able to survive. This is a very peaceful spot here, and it's a good place for me to explain to you right here in California. So I want to explain to you why I'm starting this channel. I started a travel channel probably almost 2 years ago, and the idea was I had already started traveling, but I wanted to just share my travels, and I thought that would be an eye-opening experience for people. I had no concept of trying to be political. I did think of being like a dating coach because I had a lot of experience with dating women in different countries, different continents. So over the course of filming these videos, I traveled to 5 continents. I went to over 20 countries, and I had relationships, long-term relationships, and they were also long distance in Mexico, Colombia, and Europe, and now Indonesia. And I've learned a lot from that experience, and I think it's valuable to share it with people. I think it's so important to travel. It's a great idea to leave the country and to explore and to consider living part of your life or all of it in another country. Just yesterday I was talking to a guy, an older white guy in Santa Monica, and he was telling me how he wants to move to Belize. I think he's a singer, and he said his guitarist moved to Belize. And yeah, that's what you got to do. You got to try something new. Dive into it. But of course, there's always risks involved. And that's what I want to try to help you with on this channel. Now, when I began this journey, I was looking, for a new experience to learn about different cultures. I was looking to learn about different cultures, and I was actually looking for someone to start a family with. And I didn't have too many requirements. I knew what I wasn't looking for. I wasn't looking for a woman that will put herself first. I wasn't looking for someone who I needed to cater to in the sense that, I'm always going to have to be sensitive to her emotional needs. Now, you have to do that in a relationship. That's in any relationship with anyone in the world. But we have to bend over backwards in the United States, So I started looking in the United States, and, I was just honest with women. I was, and I think you should always be honest. Some guys I've heard of a lot of guys going to Colombia and dating 2 or 3 girls, and you can do that if you want to, but you should just tell them, be straight up, and they'll appreciate the honesty. Yeah, it's pretty out here. Take a look at this. It's typical to compare. It's not great to always compare and think what's better, but all over the world, there's so many beautiful places. Here in California, it's very beautiful, but it's super expensive. That's another reason why I started traveling, because, I could have started another family here in America, but it would have been so expensive. I would have been tied down. I wouldn't have been able to travel. You know how expensive it is to have children here in the United States. So that was a big reason. No, astaghfirullah. So I was thinking, I want to find the country with the best, exchange rate in terms of value of the American dollar. But, what I found is that that's a valid criterion, but there's a lot of other things you got to look at. And number one is going to be culture. Number one is culture. And the mistake I made when I went to Mexico is I went to the big cities because it's convenient. you know, going to Mexico City, that's obviously you can meet a lot of people from different walks of life, but it's a big city. You have big city problems, same problems that you find in Los Angeles, and that you find even worse in Las Vegas, and then that you find even worse in Vegas in Mexico City, places like that, you know. Different big cities around the world, they have the same problems. And I just decided I want to avoid that. So that's what I learned. So I want to take you on this journey, and maybe you're not going to follow my path exactly, but I want to show you exactly how I came to this point where I live in an Indonesian village part of the time, because sometimes I'm in California or traveling. But it's been the most amazing thing in my life, and I mean, I wish that other people can have some of the experiences that I've had. I'm learning about what it means to be human. There's so much supremacist thinking. We think we're the best in the United States. Just like in other countries, like in Germany, for example, we have this supremacist thinking. But it's absurd, because we're not the best, right? And if you're watching this video, you probably have a lot of complaints about your life, about the way things are here in the United States. And there's a reason for that, you know? There's a lot of reasons. And I want to get into that, and, you know, getting into the difference between a traditional culture and modern society, you know, advanced industrialized society. We've lost a lot of what we had in the past. And that is why, if you're having any issues right now in your life, that's why you're having them. So I have my travel channel that's going to show exactly, you know, more of the details of like daily experience, that kind of thing, and experiences I had in Europe and Egypt and Asia, and, you know, here also in the United States. But for more of the analysis of everything, that's what I want to do here on this channel. I want to be straight up political, but if you're not even into my political analysis, you can really benefit. It can really save lives. I mean, I wish my brother committed suicide. I wish my brother, he had a very specific situation, and he felt what he did was the best thing. But it's because here we have, our religion is really, what is our religion in the United States? Think about it. Turn on the television. Think about what people talk about. What is that we care about? We care about money, status, power, success, you know, but it's all materialistic success. Okay, we really don't have wisdom here. We don't have a deep spirituality. So even though there are a lot of people who are religious, it's a pale comparison to the way religions are practiced in other countries. And I want to show you that. I want you to see that. That's not just empty words. I want to show you that. So, if you don't agree with some of my political ideas, I totally get it. I mean, I'm from California, so I have a very specific experience, and it's going to be very different from if you grow up in Tennessee or Germany. But I think what I have found is going to be pretty much my conclusions, I think, are correct, and it's going to be the same conclusions that you would draw whether you are in Indonesia, whether you are in Africa, whether you're in Europe or anywhere else. It's our traditions are eroding. That's the issue. That is the issue. And so I'm going to, talk about a few things. One thing is I'm going to talk a little bit about anthropology and our ancestors. How did our ancestors live? Do you know how our ancestors lived? I mean, I'm talking about more than 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. They lived as hunter-gatherers, okay? Now, these are things that they're starting to be discussed by people. I've seen a lot of it on Joe Rogan, actually, but it's not all pieced together. And it's important to piece it all together, right? And understand. I remember there was an episode where there was, a British guy talking about, I believe it was depression, how to deal with depression. And he was saying, in different cultures we have different scripts. And then Joe Rogan was like, What do you mean by different scripts? It's like almost like saying like, no, we're free thinking in the United States. That's not true. Just like in every single culture, we have our cultural scripts. It's like a role that we're playing and we don't even realize it. You can see it better if you go and open your mind and allow yourself to experience and learn from another culture. If you go into that other culture, it's going to be so eye-opening because there are things that are universal, right? And that's the human nature. And if we can pin that down. If we look at how hunter-gatherers live today and how they, we have to kind of piece together how they lived in the past. So I'm going to talk about hunter-gatherers. I'm going to talk about history. And I'll bring up some very important books that, you should take a look at. For example, The History of Florence by Machiavelli. There are certain philosophies that you should take a look at. Like, for example, in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the central text of Hinduism, they talk about focusing on not focusing on the results of your actions. So when you set a goal, you don't focus on the result. You focus on maybe what here we would call the journey, but there they would say you focus on your duty. Focus on your duty. Anyways, I'm going to touch on these things and a lot of other stuff. And I don't hope this will benefit you. I know this will benefit you if you... I know this will benefit you if you're willing to learn. And I'm continually learning. And so now I'm at a place where I'm learning from people who are traditional. That's the best way to move forward. And that's the only way America is going to be saved from itself. And the last reason why I'm starting this channel, well, probably the most important reason, and I should have started it a long time ago, but I feel like I have all the pieces. I feel like I've done enough research to be able to explain why what's happening right now in Gaza is the most important issue in the world and is the most important issue facing the United States in the long run. So this is going to hit home the way the Vietnam War did in terms of like having permanent changes that are not only going to affect the American people, but it's going to affect the entire world. And this is ongoing. Talk about traveling, leaving the country, politics, spirituality, religion, and important issues like Gaza.